the war of magic and religion, is magic ultimately the victor? Perhaps priest and magician were once one, but the priest, learning humility in the face of God, discarded the spell for prayer. Oh, this was such a good read. It changed my life. I'd never wanted to put my painting overalls on so bad in my entire life. I've never wanted to just sit down at my sketchbook and draw. And I've never wanted to... There was such a time in my life where I wanted to romanticize the artist, okay? In me, the artist in me. I wanted so bad to have this loft and, you know, where I was living off soup and just painting, and I was like trying to get all my ideas out, you know, and especially when I was younger, I just had this life in romanticized artist life envisioned, the starving artist archetype, if you will. And this really put a lot of those feelings. It brought them up, but then allowed them to go to bed in a graceful way, to be honest. The best part about this, or the hardest part about this book for me, was the ending. And if you don't want me to spoil it, I will put a spoiler down at the bottom, and you can just like click the 10-second, 30-second, whatever it is, and then once it's off of the bottom of the screen, the word spoiler, then it's done. But there was a part in the very end of the book where Robert was diagnosed with AIDS, and Patti was towards one point of the ending, Patti was pregnant, and there was a moment in the book, just a breath of a moment, that talks about her carrying life and Robert carrying death, and realizing that he wasn't going to beat it. And it hit so hard, you guys. It hit so hard. When I was about 10, maybe a little bit older, my grandparent figures who lived right beside us, who were my neighbors, okay, but technically they were my grandparents, okay? This elderly couple that lived beside us throughout my entire life, my entire growing up, my adolescence, okay? They were my grandparents, but they weren't actually related to me. They were just neighbors, and they had a son. Their children were older. Their children were around my parents' age, I guess, and grown and gone, you know, not living there. And they had a son that died of AIDS. And I remember her coming to the house, and it was early morning, and the sun, the way my house was set up, the sun beamed into like the back door. Like we had this like sliding glass door, and it beamed in really harshly. And you could see the steam coming off their coffee mugs, and she was telling my mom what happened. And the devastation, I'll never forget the devastation of her losing a child in that moment, and trying to tell my mom. That was the hardest thing that I'd ever had to witness. All the harshness of life. That was probably the hardest at such a young age to witness this raw devastation. And then furthermore, the fact that Patti was pregnant when Robert was dying, okay? And that he actually died, and her grappling with that, okay, really reminded me of how I learned about my dad's sickness, but then also learned I was pregnant. Over a year ago. It's been over a year now, a few days over a year. And it has completely changed my life having him gone. But as I was growing life, his was ending. And it brought back all those feelings of not knowing whether he was going to make it. You know? And then when he died, I remember feeling so guilty that nothing had changed in me, that I was still growing this child. I was still gonna have this child. I was, you know, if luck had it, and it did. But nothing had changed when he died in me. It changed me, okay, but in terms of the pregnancy, it didn't. I was still growing this life, and that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my entire life. But this brought up the devastation of basically my grandmother, okay, for all intents and purposes, losing her child when I was a young girl, and then being pregnant, losing my dad a year ago. It brought up all that, and it's just like, that's the way it ended, and I had no idea. I had no idea going into this book that that's how it was going to end. It was a complete shocker, but so good, you guys. So good. And it changed my life, and I will read it again. It will probably become this talisman for a creative block. Like, if I get creative block, I'm gonna pull this shit out. For real. I'm gonna pull Patti out. And her words and her raw take on life will get me through. For sure. Okay, another book that's changing my life right now is this. Okay, I knew it would. I knew it would. But I'm like 30 pages in, and already I want to fill the vessel. Okay, that's what I want to do. And already he talks about source, and he talks about vessels, and he talks about creativity in a way that this is in a language that I understand and I can interpret, and that this book is so highlightable. It's insane. Okay, listen to this. It may be helpful to think of source as a cloud. Clouds never truly disappear. Oh my God, it's chills, you guys. I understand this. They change form. They turn into rain and become part of the ocean, and then evaporate and return to being clouds. This is animism. The same is true of art. Art is a circulation of energetic ideas. Yes. What makes them appear new is that they're combining differently each time they come back. No two clouds are the same. This is why when we are struck by a new piece of art, it can resonate on a deeper level. Perhaps this is the familiar coming back to us in an unfamiliar form. Or maybe it is something unknown that we didn't realize we were looking for. A missing piece in a puzzle that has no end. I am currently walking through the Forest of Souls right now with Rachel Pollack. This is a very interesting book. I think the best thing about this book is, first of all, it's probably the most highlightable, quotable tarot book. For me, I've been highlighting it, underlining it, and just to go to one page that I've highlighted so far. Or maybe we ourselves repeat Adam's error of our own free will and continuously confuse the material world with the whole of existence. Talking about God, right? Talks a lot about myths in here, myths of origin. This line in the very beginning of this was really profound for me. Okay. She's talking about an old story of a rabbi, okay, in Judaism, okay, and she ends the story like this. He emerges from the tunnel to fragrant trees and flowers and a glorious soft light, and he realizes that the animal has led him to Eden, the lost garden of our imagined first ancestors, and presumably an unguarded back door. I meditated so hard on the concept, because if you were raised in Christianity, okay, like I was, then you know that Eden was basically paradise, okay? And then when man fell, we were exiled from this paradise, okay, this garden. And it's presumably guarded by Michael with this flaming ass sword, okay, like in the cave entrance. And this rabbi story talks about how through visions this rabbi is able to access the unguarded back door of Eden. And I meditated so hard on the concept of Eden having a back door, what that would look like to me, what the door would be, and that there is an access point for Eden. So I like this book's ability to, so far, okay, because I'm not done with it, this book's ability to drive my visions, drive my meditations this way. Also for it to be, like I said, quotable. Events occur through a process called transactional interpretation. A wave ripples out from the present moment, the now. This wave must meet a resonating wave from the future. This interaction between these two waves produces a probability field in which events occur. At any moment, the future is as real as the present. That's quantum theory. And it's something that I love, to think about. And the fact that it's in this book is so cool. The approach to tarot in this is very much how I like to approach tarot. I love thinking about the meanings of tarot, thinking about not so much the origin, okay? I could care fucking less. Because I believe the tarot as allegorical, or allegories. I believe them to be allegories. Symbolism that is present on the web of life. It's a book of life, okay? So therefore it's going to be relevant. Tarot will be relevant forever, because humanity, there's the essence of humanity would stay the same. And I like that take in here. Another thing I quoted, highlighted, but sometimes sense is common only because it's commonly agreed upon. Talking about how, like, events of the past how history seemingly repeats itself and all that. Currently, another really, really good thing about this book are the readings, okay? The readings that she gives are intense. The section I'm on now is like page 99, and it's the section, the Tarot Before Creation. The way in which tarot is allegorical. It suggests that God needs us as much as we need God. I love that. Pagans may find the idea less strange, for in modern pagan belief, the energy of a god is not detached from the world, but instead expresses all nature. Pagans often describe God or goddess as humans as co-creators. Yes. And I like to think of the liberation of tarot when walking through this forest of souls, okay? Like I said, I'm not done with it, but it is really profound. I think that the best thing about this book will be the readings involved and its ability to allow me to meditate on the meanings, but then also lose the meanings, and then also think of it in terms of allegory, and allow us to awaken to new possibilities. Because if the past, present, and future is already kind of mapped out on this web, on these resonating waves, okay, then we can pluck tarot from the future, of course we can pluck it from the past and pluck it from the present, as what we do with tarot now, what we did with it in the past in terms of like fortune telling and stuff like that. But then we can also try to pluck tarot from the future and liberate it from what it is doing. And I think that's a powerful message for now that we can use, but all three, to map out how the future of tarot will be accepted and changed and transformed, because we're very much trying to transform ourselves with this as readers, I guess you could say. So, loving this so far. Currently walking through the forest of souls, while laying on the couch. Okay, well, another book that I have been loving is the Mythic Imagination by Stephen Larsen. I picked this up secondhand from the title alone. Your quest for meaning through personal mythology. Self-mythology. And I have been, like, not skimming it, but, like, reading it leisurely, reading it slowly, okay? Goes into Joseph Campbell and Jung and self-mythology, right? The mythology that you make, that you're living, right? And very archetypal and very, I don't know, okay? Here's some sections for a reference. Psychology, myths, and maps. I'm in the section in that because I'm still in the beginning of this, where it's talking about dreams and it's talking about the symbolism therein. More on that in a video coming up, okay? Dream work. But anyways, the roots of personal mythology, psychology and myth, literary personal mythologies, right? Like, and modern myths, like myths in which you're living, okay? The relevance of myth in everyday life with consciousness in enacting a myth, ritual, imagination and vision. Can't wait to get to that section. The world of self-luminous forms. The sections are stellar, okay? And there are all kinds of sections in this book that are just, like the shadow, magic, and the feminine. Yes, I can't wait to get to that section either. Therapeutic maps, the hero's underworld journey, which might be fascinating. Symbolic play, the shamanistic circus, clowns and sacred fools. Then creative mythology, the roots of creative mythology, the healing mask, finding our personal mask, and dialogues with masks. Everything that I like, okay, in terms of psychology and myth and magic and imagination and instinct and is in this book. So I'm really hoping, so far, okay, it was pretty good, okay, it's pretty good. Let's get to where I've highlighted, okay? Because we'll just go off of, like, the first thing that I see that I've highlighted. Okay. Our personal uniqueness perishes as we enter an eternal role. And yet it is only through entering this paradoxical zone that we truly find our individuality. Loving it. Loving it. Like I said, I'm only, I don't even know, what is that, a quarter of the way through, and it's really, really, really impactful, okay? You can find it probably, like I did, on Thrift Books, because Thrift Books is my sacred haven, okay? So, you can probably find it on Thrift Books or Amazon or wherever books are sold. But it's really good.